All right, welcome to today's webinar where we'll be exploring the new project dashboard. Today's agenda, obviously showing the new dashboard, showing a couple other new features, and going to talk a little bit about, why we're doing this and where is this going to take us in the future of Workamajig. All right, just so you know, my name is Roderick Ripley. I will be hosting this webinar today. We also have Brittany on the chat line here. So if you do use the chat feature of Zoom, she will be doing her best to respond to any questions there. And I'll try to peruse the chat a little bit myself and see if there's anything else I can kind of touch on during the webinar itself as well. All right, we got a full house here. So let's take a quick gander. We got a full house. Looks like we got, what, over 100? Yeah, 137 participants so far. We might have some more to be joining a little late, but they can always watch the webinar later. All right. Well, welcome. So this is our new project dashboard. I have it open on my screen right in front of us. So what this change is all about is that we've noticed that the most common page everybody has open is the project dashboard. So why not start there? And here we have a dashboard. I've kind of moved things around a little bit from the default. So if you enable this function, your widgets may be in a little bit of a different order than mine, as I've done some kind of adjustments. But ultimately, the idea of this new dashboard is that it's more flexible, customizable. You can move things around. What you find more important in terms of information, you could put at the top of the page. So now, before we start going into all the functionality, how do we enable this? So right now, keep in mind this is a beta feature, meaning this is very early in its development. So there might be few little glitches here and there, but it's pretty solid right now. And so how do we enable this is if you are an administrator, you would go from your main menu up in the upper left. I do have a custom menu set up here and a custom background. Got my Baby Yoda and coffee there. All right. So I'm going to have to click Show All Apps because I have a custom menu. And when I do that, then we have our Admin Manager menu. From Admin Manager, we have our system setup. I'm going to open that up in a new tab here. In your system setup, under Workamajig Labs, and again, you probably have to have some security rights to get here. So with the account information Workamajig Labs, we have two functions I'm going to talk about today. The new project dashboard beta, I've already enabled it. So that would be up here. You click enable, and then it drops down to the enabled list. There's also another functionality called new system display themes. Go ahead and enable that. That doesn't cause any issues. It doesn't change anything until you decide to change your display theme. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So those are the two functionalities that are brand new that you can enable. Now, one thing to keep in mind, when you do enable the project dashboard beta, it's going to appear that way for everybody. So this is not something you can just turn on for yourself. It is not project or client specific. It's one and done. So when you enable this, it does change that project dashboard to look like this. And again, everybody in the system will see it. The other note is that only administrators can modify the dashboard at this time. So what that means is at the top of the dashboard, there is a More button. When I click on that More button, because I'm an administrator, I have the Edit Dashboard option. If you are not an administrator, doesn't matter what amount of security rights you have, you will not see this option. So right now, only full administrators of Workamajig can edit the dashboard. But with those full administrators logging in, click on More, click on Edit Dashboard, you can see that kind of changes the layout, kind of blurs things out a little bit, but that lets you know that, okay, you're in an edit mode now. So I can now freely move things around. I can say, you know what, the project details I'm not too worried about. Let's move that over here. Conversations, that's more important. So let's make that front and center as far left as we can. You could even move the setup, the menu, could move everything around how you see fit. Plus, you could expand things and say, you know what, we have a lot of conversations. They get lengthy, so let's just make that fill up like the whole page. So whatever you need to do, you can kind of resize things and do what you need. Once you have it in kind of a good situation, you can click done. If things go a little awry, you could click auto layout. That will basically shift everything left and up, or up and left, however it programs to do that first. But then that way everything kind of tidies up. So if things kind of start overlapping or having any issues, you could always do auto layout. Now I'm just going to go ahead and click done. And that kind of saves those changes that I've made. And now our conversations panel is over here versus over here. So within these panels, each one has a little bit different unique functionality. So if I just kind of hover over the recent conversations, I could add a new conversation right from here, kind of go through that process. I can also refresh it just in case something new has come in that I'm not seeing. Now, conversations refreshes pretty quick, so I wouldn't worry about that one too much. If I wanted to kind of see more of a full expanded view, you do have like the 4 arrows, kind of throws it into a bigger view so you can kind of read them in more detail. And of course, you got view all conversations like we had before. Oh, I closed the whole thing. There we go. So with that project dashboard open, again, the whole idea here is to let you customize this, modify it how you see fit. Okay, so now if I want to do a little bit more of modifying here, for example, let's say I want to add more widgets. Now, the term widget, if you recall, some of you might be familiar with the word widget from our Flash days. So that wording and verbiage is being reinstituted here. So we call these our widgets now. And so let's say, okay, I needed to add, there was another widget on here that I wanted to add. So I go to the Add Widgets button. And here's a list of all the widgets. Now, currently, I actually have all of these widgets on my dashboard at this time. So there's really nothing new I can add. But if I keep scrolling down, you might notice, oh, well, now we have, below widgets, we have other things. Well, what are these? Well, these are actually graphs. These are data sets. So you have the ability to also add graphs into your project dashboard now as well. So for an example, I'm going to just go back out and click done. I've already put a couple graphs onto a new tab here. So you're able to create new tabs and separate, the widgets into different tabs if you want. And additionally, you can add graphs into those tabs. So the idea here is that we're going to be able to have different tabs, different information, if you so choose. Now, again, by default, when you enable this, it'll just basically look something like this. No tabs, no nothing. But as soon as we add a graph, for example, we can then assign that graph to a specific tab. Now, if you're familiar with graphing, you might be already familiar with kind of that term of making different tabs and different things like that. So as a quick example, I'm going to go back into the More and edit my dashboard. And so I have this widget here called Project Hours. And if I edit this, this brings open the graph kind of options. And so this particular graph is actually the project summary data graph. I have it, a metric graph, so that way I can have, the hours of that project. What is really neat about having graphs here on the project dashboard, however, is I don't need to add any special filters because it's already filtering for just the project we're viewing it through. So the hours that are here are going to just be this project's hours. So that's kind of the nicety of adding graphs on your project dashboard is it's already pre-filtered for that project. So you got some kind of neat ways of thinking of doing things here. Let me back out of that, click done. So for example, you can see, I got 120 budget hours, 120 allocated hours, and only 2 actual hours so far on this project total. But like I said, I could have this graph intermingle also with my widgets. Now, as a quick example, I'm going to scroll down on my first page, and I actually have a graph built in down here. It didn't work very well. It's not very pretty right now because I don't have much information on this project as of yet. So that graph doesn't really show too much of value. But again, I could have a graph, intermingle all together with my widgets. Now, keep in mind, down the road, we're going to be widgetizing, more items, more things. This is just kind of like the first pass. So if you have questions or you have feedback on, hey, I would love a widget that did this, then we'll probably be working on that. In fact, we're probably already working on them now. So like some widgets that we already have kind of in the works is we want to add actually a My Task widget here on the project. So that way you could just go to, let's say, your projects page. And you could imagine you just go to your projects page, you click on basically any project, and then, oh, hey, here's, my tasks. And then you can add your time right from here. So that's where we're trying to kind of make this be more more intuitive, more to the liking of how people want to work, knowing that people just open up projects. Well, let's let you add that time right from that project dashboard. So that's where I was kind of back here on my original Today page. I did have the Today creatives open behind me, but that's where you get that new project dashboard just by opening up any project in the system. All right, I'm sure there's a lot of questions and chatter going on, so I'll kind of let Brittany kind of work on that through the chat there. Hopefully, I'm answering a lot of the questions as I'm moving along here. Now, as far as who can see what on these project dashboards. So keep in mind, right now, again, it's kind of a one size fits all. Once you make the project dashboard beta visible, this is basically what everyone is going to see, is just the layout itself. Now, I will say security rights still apply. So for example, you might see the box or the widget for project snapshot, but if you don't have the security rights to see, budget information or invoices and stuff like that, you'll still see the widget box, but it may just say you don't have access to view this information. So keep that in mind that, if you do add widgets on here, some people may not be able to see the information, but they'll still see the widget itself. Now, like I said, we're still kind of adjusting how the security permissions kind of play out a little bit. So it might be a little bit of a moving target in that respect, but overall, the design is here. Now, in the future, where this is going to take us is this framework of this project dashboard, this idea of being able to edit a dashboard, move widgets around, customize them, even add the graphs and whatnot. The long-term goal really is that this is going to become more of like your Today pages. So as a quick example, if I go back to this Today page, you could imagine this page being customizable. Imagine being able to adjust the My Task widget over here, have the Conversations panel over here on the right, for example, daily feed, having all of these visible at the same time, being able to kind of adjust their look and feel within the page. Plus, with widgetizing more information, imagine being able to then add the project view as a widget. So you could have all your project listing next to your task list. So we're hoping to really kind of take this to the next level with these home pages or dashboards, if you will, and let you kind of customize this to your heart's content. So that way you only need to go to one page versus keep navigating and jumping around to different pages within the system. So that's been we hear all that feedback and we are taking it to heart and we're working on that now. No ETA, but hopefully soon we'll be seeing something along those lines. So like I said, for now we have our project dashboard is our kind of our new beta. So we're just putting this through the ringer, getting feedback. We've gotten some great feedback so far. There are a couple of things that are going to be fixed already in this November update that comes out in a week or two. So as a quick little thing, actually I don't have any on this project. Let me go to this project. So for example, a lot of you are familiar with like the total standard billing. You go in there, you see your list of invoices. Well, currently, for example, I can't click on it. Well, I know that's already fixed in the November update. So some things like that, we know of some of the issues of, hey, some things I click on don't open. Okay, we are aware of that. We have a lot of that actually being fixed this very month for the update. So if you find anything else after the update, please let us know. But other than that, I find it to be really solid right now, really good. So let's see. I see lots of chatter still going on in the chat.
Can you
Okay.
show how they do the graphs
Yeah.
again?
Oh, for sure. Oh, that's actually a good point. I was gonna let's start over and let me walk you through one. So as a quick example, how do we add a graph? Let's go through that process. Let's go to the More button. I want to edit my dashboard. So that's always step one, edit the dashboard. And then let's say I want to add a graph right here on the homepage. Well, let's go to Add Widget. And of course, you got your widgets first, and then you got your data sets down below there. Now, because I'm an administrator, I'm going to see all of the data sets that are available. The one that I find to be probably the most useful at this point, or easy to use, is the project summary data. So I can type in project some, and then it kind of filters down to those. So for example, there's project summary data. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and that opens up the graph for that particular data set. Excuse me. And now we have all kinds of different graphs, graph types. We have a whole separate webinar that goes over this process. We have some help guides that really go into detail on all of these. But for this purpose, really quickly, I like to do the key metrics. And then I can add a metric, and I can add any field that's available to the project summary data set. Now, project summary data set is just that. It's going to be the summary level data per project. So if I choose, for example, actual hours, well, this is going to give me the total hours on this particular project. I can add another row, and I can just type in hours. Let's add the allocated hours. Let's add more hours. This time we'll do the current budget hours. And if you wanted to see even more hours like broken out, there's write-off hours. So however you want to kind of detail this information, you can do that. So let's do budget hours, allocated, actual, write-off. Let's go with that. I'll go ahead and click save, and this is going to then add this graph to the bottom of the current page. So if I scroll down, there we see it at the bottom. But again, let's say I want that to be at the top. I want everyone to be seeing this. So I can just kind of drag and drop it all the way up here. Let's put it right there. I'm going to make my conversations a little bit smaller. Got to kind of move things around. Now, again, if things get covered, you could always hit auto layout and it will uncover things at that point. But I'm just going to kind of move this. Uh-oh, I lost my thing. Auto layout. Oh, and I just pushed it all around. So there we go. I just lost my graph way over here. Let's move it back. And let's get that resized again. We don't need that much focus. I don't have any deliverables on this particular project at this time. Resize you over there. Get you going. All right. So I got my layout set, and so I'll go ahead and click done. Now, sometimes it will show all the information, so I just got to do a quick refresh. There we go. All right. So we can see real quickly at the top of my project, I've got 120 budget hours, 120 allocated, 2 actual, and 0 written off. So I have 2 hours on here because I was already doing some work on this at the task level. So a couple of changes we do have there as well. I want to highlight as well. But before I move off of the project dashboard, if there's any other questions, and Brittany, if you catch anything I should be aware of, let me know.
Yeah, lots
But
of questions on whether they can just enable for themselves or is it company-wide? And then when they are enabling it for everyone, how do we set per security group for the pages?
correct. So yeah, I talked about that in the beginning. So this is currently one and done. So if I go back to my project labs, for example, when I enable the new project dashboard, this enables it for everyone. So everyone will see the new dashboard. And the only way to go back is to disable the new project dashboard. So if you do find issues with it, or it's not able to adjust just yet, okay, feel free to go ahead and disable that. But once it's enabled, yes, everyone will see the dashboard. And on that point, everyone will see the same layout. We cannot customize the layout currently other than just one layout. So that's why this is a beta item. We do hope to have some different functionality maybe down the road, but for now, it's one layout for everybody. What is different is depending on some security rights. So for example, if you don't have, there is a security right for like the project snapshot and project profitability. There are some actual security rights for that. If you don't have those rights, you might see the box, the widget that says project snapshot, but it'll just say you don't have access to see this information. So if you do make a layout, you might want to consider making some tabs. And then that way you can say, okay, well, let's create a tab for, all the, financials or accounting graphs or something along those lines. So that way it's not just in the home page and everybody sees, information that they don't have access to. So different ways you can kind of think about how you might want to set this up to begin with. Again, the basic default layout will basically have everything on it. And then only administrators are able to adjust the layout at this time. So if you're a full administrator, under that More button, you will see Edit Dashboard. Nobody else, unfortunately, will see it at this time. Hopefully that helps to answer some of the security rights or visibility concerns around that. Now, one of the other exciting functionalities we've recently added, trying to, again, kind of enhance our UI, do some, kind of roadmap items. We now actually have what we call display themes. So as I mentioned early on in the labs, right next to that new project dashboard beta, there's also new display themes. So this one I feel is safe to add because it doesn't change anything instantly. It only changes once somebody decides to change their theme. Now, because I have that new theme already enabled, what you're going to then see is in my user profile, when I click up here in the upper right corner, and I go to my default settings, I now have this option for display theme. So Platinum, that's our current display theme. We have a Platinum Dark mode, and we have Moody Blues. Now, I'm a fan of the Moody Blues ones myself, so I'm going to go and show that one. So when you change your display theme, I'm going to go and save that. You need to refresh your browser. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh now, and we'll see the color palette of our interface change to kind of a little bit more of a toned down color, a moody blues, if you will. So I'm a fan of this myself. That way it's a little bit easier on my eyes as I'm getting older here. And but we still see all the same kind of layout, the same functionality, just kind of a different theme wrapped under it. So feel free to check that out as well. I think it's a great combination of items to choose, and kind of take a look from there. All right, I'm going to go and switch it back just for today, so that way we can keep it working in a way that everybody is kind of more used to seeing. Again, once you change your display theme, make sure to refresh your browser to get that to apply. All right, so that is really the new dashboard kind of in a nutshell. Now I'm really excited for this, and I'm really curious to see what people start doing on their dashboards and what kind of graphs y'all kind of come up with. Now, keep in mind, if there's something that you are trying to graph out on a project, and you're having some questions or troubles with that, let us know. We're happy to kind of take a look and offer some advice and see what's possible. We do have actually if I hope it's okay, I can talk about this, but we do actually have a new graph type in the works. And what I mean by that is, if I were to just click on any one. So right now we have these 4 graph types: bar graph, line graph, pie graph, and key metric. So similar to key metric, what we're wanting to do is create kind of like a report graph, a line graph, if you will, one that looks more like when you create a custom report. So that way you could have multiple lines of information of rows and columns, not just, a metric of just columns only. So that actually is something that we do have kind of in the works to, kind of enhance the report engine further, or the graphing engine, better yet, further than what we have now. So I don't have ETAs on these things. I just know that, they're on the works. They're, what's important to us, what's important to our clients. And so we have some things definitely in the pipeline. But now is a great time to kind of take a look at these new features, give us your feedback, brutal, honest feedback. I'm always a fan of. So now, like I said, we're hoping to start widgetizing pretty much everything in the system. So not only just like those today pages, we're also hoping to eventually, hopefully, widgetize even like the project schedule, for example. So imagine the project schedule here being a widget right here on your dashboard. So that way you could just modify your schedule right here. Maybe even the idea would be you have a tab called schedule, and then there's the widget schedule right there. So that way you're not having to click, and click and open and have something open on top. Everything feels like it's going to be at the same level or layer of information. So do know that that's kind of where we're heading with this, but this is obviously kind of the first or beta initialization, you know, kind of trial with this. So we definitely love the feedback, love the input. So keep that coming for sure. All right, I do want to change gears to the schedule. So going into that schedule, do note that we have made some changes here recently. Not sure that everybody's aware, but we have made some changes here recently to the way we can move or adjust tasks. So I have a sample schedule just set up here, kind of more simple, just in 3 phases, a couple of detailed tasks under them. So you could imagine whatever your workflow might be. However, what we've kind of done now is we've kind of taken advice or feedback from our clients, and we've learned that our clients like to budget at the top level or summary or phase level here. So for example, you can see on my phase one task, I'm actually budgeting my time at this level. My subtasks, however, are not budgeting time. So if I go to my detail one task, I am not tracking budgets here. But I can still, through the Today Creative, I can still add my time to my detail one task, but the time just rolls up to that summary task. So I do have the ability to kind of flip-flop it this way, which has been very popular, but we've taken it a step further, where now you can actually assign your kind of like allocation or budget time, if you will, at the phase level, and then assign users to the subtasks. So that way, all the people that are working on the tasks, all their time rolls up against what you're budgeting or allocating at that top level. So within these summary tasks now, under the 3 dots, for example, you're going to see an option here called Insert a Subtask. So this is like the new functionality where we're trying to really, answer the call here and say, this is how clients want to use our schedules. They want to budget everything at a top level. That way your estimates are simple. You're just estimating at phase one, phase two, phase three. You're not estimating every single detailed task. But now when you do have a need saying, okay, on phase one, we need to do this. Okay, well, let's add a subtask. And we'll say, do this. So notice when I add a subtask, it actually adds the services that I'm allocating for at my phase level. So it brings down the assignment, doesn't allocate any time down here because some people honestly don't care about time. They're saying, this is what I need you to do, and I need you to do this now. So we bring down the assignments. You can then assign a person to do this and say, okay, I need our top person. We need our username to be working on this particular task now. So do this. So you could think of these adding subtasks as a way of using to-dos. So the reason why I'm saying that is because to-dos have gotten a little out of hand. And so we wanted to make tasks function more like to-dos, be easier to add, and not only easy to add, but now once it's here, you could actually just move it around. So because we're not being dependent on the track budgets of these subtasks, I could say, okay, hey, this do this now task, this is actually going to be a phase two item. So let's put that under phase two. And now I can move it, and I'm not getting any errors when I move things around. So that's kind of where we've driven these new schedule features as well. So we have a lot of new exciting features that have been implemented into the system. And that way we can kind of see that and move around the schedule more freely. So I definitely encourage everyone who's very PM focused here to work on the schedule. Try creating a new schedule at a phase level, and then insert your subtasks as needed for each of those tasks and see how that works out for you. And of course, give us your feedback. All right, I know that's not necessarily the project dashboard, but to me, it all kind of intertwines, it's part of the project. It's something that you're heavily focused on, and we can always see that right from here. So now that I have, my tasks on there, I'm gonna focus, do a quick search, webinar. So you can see now I've got that copywriting task, do this. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some time there. Let's say I worked a whole 2 hours on there. Perfect. So I've got 2 hours on there. And now, I was kind of hoping that would refresh. There, I forget, there's a little bit of a delay of getting that time to focus on here. I forgot what that was. Anyway, but they do start showing up here eventually, and we can start seeing how much time we've gotten put to this project overall. And it starts kind of flowing through and, getting all of our information in there. Okay, Brittany, are there any general questions still unanswered at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me figure out where they are.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've answered it a few times, but the create a tab on the project
Oh,
dashboard. I
yes,
think maybe
great.
you should just show it again because I think I've answered it a few times.
Yeah, great question. And that might be something that we need to make better, I'll be honest. Because you can't just there's no create tab button, unfortunately. So how a tab is created is actually done from a graph at this point. So let me explain that further. So let me go to my edit dashboard. So let's say we have this project summary data graph here. I'm going to go ahead and edit this. And under the settings tab of the graph, there's a field here called tab name. And so I'm going to call this new tab. So when you enter a tab name here of a graph, this will actually generate the new tab. And that new tab will have whatever name is here, new tab. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. Click my done button. Maybe just refresh the project. So notice the graph is now gone from the home page, which is the default tab, if you will. But now there's new tab. I click on new tab and there's the graph.
Other question was more towards the budgeting on the summary rather than the subtasks. They would like to go into that a little bit more as far as what does the creative see? How does it work with billing? That kind
So
of
yeah,
detail, please.
gotcha. Yeah, that might be a little bit beyond the scope of this particular webinar. But if you've ever worked with budgeting at the summary level, basically it's still the same. The major change is that we allow you to allocate and budget at or I mean we always let you budget at this level, but we didn't used to let you assign at this level. So typically what I mean the vision here is that on the summary level is where you'll put your services and you'll allocate time. Think of it as the bucket, if you will. You're not necessarily going to put people here. Now you could if you really wanted to, but then your users would see two tasks appear in their Today Creative versus just the one that you're assigning them to below. So the idea is that, you create these phase tasks. So if I kind of collapse it, you'd create something like this. This might be the start of your project. And you go, okay, for phase one, we don't know all the things yet. We just know it's going to take this much time to do this, and it's going to require these services and roles to perform that. And then as we're working on it, sure, we start adding those subtasks. Because again, when you insert a subtask, it places it right under that summary, that phase. And again, it brings down the allocations or the assignments to that new task as well. So that way it gives you information that you can just start kind of playing with, assigning out. If you do want to allocate time at this level, you can. If you need to adjust dates of this particular subtask, you can. So we're trying to let these subtasks act more like, kind of a free form to do right here in the schedule. So that way you're not going to a whole separate section of the system, everything's staying within the schedule. But because these subtasks don't have track budgets, correct. So that's I guess you could say that's a trade-off. If you want, you can still do tracking budgets at the subtask level. We're letting you work both ways, if you will. But that's an option. That's up to you. If that's how you work best is creating a waterfall and you're going to budget at every single step along the way. Yeah, continue to do that. If that works for you, that makes you successful. We are behind you 100%. But we do have a lot of clients now that are wanting to kind of, free form their schedules, be a little bit more agile, if you will. So that way they can just kind of budget and allocate at a summary level and then just add subtasks as needed of what needs to be done and when. So that's really kind of the big drive, the big change there. Now, like I said, if you have questions or feedback with that, let us know. But again, it's all about where you're tracking budgets at that determines how you can estimate. So for example, on this project, if I go to my estimate, I've already estimated my time. See how I just see those summary tasks. I don't see the subtasks because we don't have track budgets enabled at that level on this particular example. But that's okay. However, that does mean that if I budget at this level, that means I can only bill at this level. So if I do like a fixed fee billing, it's going to fixed fee bill this level of information. If I'm billing time and materials, it's billing at this level of information. So hopefully it helps kind of clarify a little bit of that billing questions. But if you do have questions further with that, I would say just let us know. We'd be happy to meet and kind of discuss it further. Okay. Brittany, anything else we got going on there? Hopefully
No,
that, no? Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. I'm going to put this one back to my main dashboard. So it's right there in the center, makes it look nice and filled in. All right. Yeah. So at this time, again, we're just kind of, keep in mind, this is a beta item. So this is, still, if you will, early on in development, but we are moving really fast. We have literally, all our developer time right now is focusing on the UI. And, we started with the project dashboard because that was the most logical, kind of easiest to rebuild one-to-one. We're taking this framework, we're applying it to a whole new homepage that one day will basically, the vision is that it will take over, let's say, all the today pages. So I know I was kind of mentioning how we're going to kind of widgetize this, but let's talk about also what else that means. Well, that means for my finance friends, if you're using, like, let's say, the today billing page, you have like your billing worksheets, your mass billing, your invoices. All of these are going to be widgets. So that means you'll be able to create a homepage that has all of your today billing as individual widgets on a same page that has also your purchasing options here. So all of these would be able to be on one page finally, instead of having to navigate to multiple pages to just see where everything is at. So again, that's something that's in the works, is to be able to create a very customizable homepage of all of your information in one place. So I'm sure there's some cheering going on back there. I just can't hear y'all, but that's what we're working on. So that's really where that this initial, first pass of the project dashboard is kind of leading to, and is why we're spending so much time focusing on, getting this polished now. All right. Trying to think what else. Any other hot questions there?
Um,
Yeah.
Not yet, but
Yeah.
apparently I've only been responding to the hosts and panelists, so I'm going to post all of the responses to the everyone group. So just give me a second.
Oh, gotcha. No problem. Yeah, I know security is kind of like everyone's first kind of question that I've been chatting with as well. And so, again, just keep in mind right now, only administrators can be the ones that kind of are the keeper of how the dashboard looks at this time. So, so if you don't have administrator access, please, work with somebody at your organization that does, um, and hopefully that you can kind of get that to be customized for your liking. Now, again, like I said, they're, as far as the individual widgets, even the graphs, the graphs themselves are a little bit of a unique thing. So again, there are other help guides that go deeper into the graph part of this, but the graphs, you do have the access of, okay, who am I going to make this particular graph visible to? So the graphs are a little bit more unique, if you will, than just the widgets themselves. Because the widgets, I don't have the option of, really editing too much of other than making it visible too. But as far as, what people can kind of see in there, again, there are security rights that do apply to some of these items specifically, especially in the project snapshot and profitability. There's a little bit more security rights behind the scenes on that. Another note I'll kind of make on graphs, since I know that tends to be kind of a hot focus here. So another thing that you can also do, if I edit my dashboard again, so I do have a graph here called My Hours by Task. So I've created that just for fun. But if I edit this particular graph, note that not remember that these graphs are already filtering down to the project. But we do have some filters where we can say, um, the this particular graph is the time detailed data. So that's a very popular data set we have in our system. But I've applied a filter on top of it called is me. So this graph is designed to only show hours that were entered by me that have my name on it, my username up here. I know it gets a little confusing because the field is called username, and my username is username. Sorry about that. But when I say the username of the time entries is me, well, then show me just my hours on this particular project. So there are ways to create graphs that are specific to the user that is looking at this time. So if somebody else were to look at this particular graph, they would see no hours because they haven't put any time on there. So that's kind of how the graph engine can kind of work. So lots of little tricks you can kind of do in here. I was trying to create kind of a cool graph here at the bottom with like a little timeline of things, but it just didn't play out right in the short time I was getting ready for this webinar. I do apologize. Um, but if I were to grab, let me go to some of my other projects here actually, because I do have some that had some more information that I thought was interesting. So I got more hours on there. There we go. So you can kind of see here's like the hours that have been allocated weekly to this project. So you can kind of get a timeline of different things happening here. We do have, I know this is always a favorite item called the burn chart. And so this hopefully will become a widget at some point. But for right now, you still have to kind of click into the menu items to get there. But if you're if you're looking to create, your own graphs, there are lots of possibilities of what can be done. But I would always just say, just pass along an email to support@workamajig.com and let us know what you're looking for. Hey, I want to create a graph that shows me this in this kind of form. Is that possible? Now, hopefully your heart doesn't get broken if we can't do it, but let us know if there is something you're trying to accomplish, because I'm always trying to push the limits of the report engine myself here. So, all right. Well, that's kind of like what I got for today. Let's do a little bit more Q&A. If there's any other kind of general questions people are asking here. I'll just answer Sarah's last question here. So when this comes out of beta, will each person have the ability to customize things? Potentially. We don't know exactly all of the details. So I would say that's feedback to send us. If you want your individual users to be able to modify this project dashboard, I mean, me personally, I wouldn't want that. Now what we are going to do is when I was talking about these home pages that we're hoping to have out at some point here, is there'll be two tabs. There'll be a tab called like home or default, and that'll be a default layout that we'll have laid out that your administrator could define a default layout. But yes, for the new home pages, you'll be able to add tabs yourself, and then you can customize that as an individual. So the new home pages, we're going to let that be customizable. But as far as the project dashboard, like I said, this one's a little bit unique because we want people to see the same reliable information. So I think this might be a little bit more restrictive of who can edit it. But once we get to those new home pages, you'll start seeing more of the customization ability there per person. But keep in mind at this time, yeah, only the administrators can edit the new project dashboard. Definitely lots of questions around security. So, oh, I see an AI question. Any AI integrations? So I don't want to get too far off the track here with today's focused webinar on the project dashboard. But yes, we are looking into AI. We have been looking into AI, in fact. But we're trying to, first of all, we want to make sure everyone's data stays safe. So with a lot of these AI tools, data gets taken off site. So I've always been more cautious of that myself, of like, where does your data go and who gets it? So that's been probably one of our main concerns. We do have some AI functionality already built into the credit card connector screen. If you're familiar with that, if not, check it out. There is a kind of an AI assist option there to help pre-fill out some of your credit card transactions for what vendor it should be for and different elements there. We are still looking at AI elsewhere in the system heavily. We're trying to really spec it out and price it out because we don't want to obviously cause any kind of increase in cost in the system. But we're trying to determine, what works best, for the system, for the features that people are asking, and keep it all, hopefully within the same price point, not have to do anything else there. So things are in the works. I would just say, keep looking at our release notes. We have some things in the works, but I can't say too much. So I'm just kind of scanning through the top level here. But Brittany, if you see anything else, let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, always lots of AI questions. All right. Yeah, I'm not seeing it too much stand out. I know I covered a lot today. So, feel free to reach out to your account manager here at Workamajig, via support@workamajig.com. And let them know, hey, I saw this amazing webinar that Rod and Brittany hosted, and I'd love to know more about it. And hey, can you help me with a graph, or can you help me set up a layout? Can you kind of walk me through this again? We're happy to do that. We're always happy to kind of help out our clients and make sure that you're getting what you need out of the system here. But more importantly, like if there's just some feedback that you have here, hey, it'd be great if I could do this here. Like I said, we want to add that My Task widget and be able to just have it right here on the project dashboard. To me, I think that's a great idea because in that way you can just go to the project, see your tasks, and be done. Because a lot of times when you're looking at, I'm probably a lot of people will raise their hands here. I bet your creatives go to the Today Creatives page and they just have thousands of tasks. I mean, now there's a lot of reasons why that occurs, and there's a lot of other discussions to have. But at the very least, by adding a kind of a My Task widget to the project dashboard, what would be nice is that, oh, I can just go to the project, and here's just my 2 tasks. So it'll be nice because that'll help pre-filter things down. Now, again, it's not built yet, it's not here yet, but that's where we're trying to head. We're trying to take that kind of feedback and like, how can we just make this, even better? So hopefully that will be soon. I know I'm anticipating that. I'm eager for that myself. For my clients to just have some functionality that is just quick and intuitive like that. And we are working on that. So, but at the same time, I know graphs is probably going to be the next big thing that people want to add to their project dashboards. And like I said, I'm really curious to see what people are going to come up with because I've seen some interesting graphs, I'll say the least, in other people's systems. But now that we can just make it more project specific, it's going to be pretty cool. So
Rod, can you go
yeah.
over the themes again?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, so to enable that, you got to go back into your Workamajig Labs. So that was the main menu, Admin Manager System Setup. Once you're there, you'll have Workamajig Labs here under the account information. It would be under your disabled labs. But once you enable it, you'll see new system display themes here. And again, this doesn't change anything when you enable it, which is kind of nice. And once you have that enabled, you will see that in your user profile. So once that beta is enabled or lab is enabled, you can click on your name in the upper right corner, get into your user profile. You can edit your default settings here with the little pen icon. And right there at the top, display theme. So Platinum is kind of the default. I'll show off Platinum Dark. I'll be honest, not my favorite, but we'll go ahead and show it anyway. And you refresh your browser, and there we have it. Now, you might notice some of the contrast is still needing to be worked on a little bit here. So the numbers might be a little bit hard to read. We're aware of that, and we got some fixes in the works for that. But this is where we need feedback. So if you come across a particular element of the web page that is hard to read or there's some issue, let us know. But I would say let us know after the November update. We are aware of a lot of things right now, and so we have a lot of fixes already in place. They just haven't been pushed out to the servers yet. So after you see the November update, if you see anything after that, do let us know. All right, I'm going to click back on my name again. I'm going to change my default settings. I'm going to go to the Moody Blues. This is actually my personal favorite right now. And again, once you set that, go ahead and refresh your browser, and you'll see the screen kind of change along those lines. Now, I myself, I'm pushing for more themes, than just these three themes we have currently. But hopefully we can do more colors, more customization. But again, it's all based on our clients' feedback, not what I want. So, all right. Hopefully that helps explain those functions. Now, again, let me go back to that labs real quick. So, if there's any issues at all, feel free to go back into the Workamajig labs and you can disable the project dashboard. You could disable also the themes if you needed to. So those are there just as a precaution. Obviously, once these functionalities are considered live and part of the system, they'll no longer be disableable and they won't be in the system setup anymore. But that's going to be quite a while before that happens at this point. As we still just want to make sure that this is, working and getting polished and all that good stuff. Well, all right, I think I've rambled on long enough. Any other questions going on here? Let's see. So the themes is individual, yes. By default, when you enable it, that just means that the individuals can enable whichever theme they want here. Now, there is a default. Let me just kind of blank it out. So you can see there's a company default. It's in gray here. The company default is just the default current platinum view, if you will. You could institute a default for everybody. So you could make everybody see Moody Blues, for example. But keep in mind, they can still change it after you've updated the default. I just haven't really made a point to update it at a default level because I don't think that's needed at this time. But maybe down the road when we have more themes available or something along those lines. But right now, I would just say just let your individual users know that they can change their display theme from their user profile. I know to me that's one of the big requests or things I've been hearing lately is that we want more customization, more ability to do that, and so we're trying to answer that call. All right. Well, cool. Well, I think things are kind of settling down there. Would you say, Brittany, that the
Yeah, there's one that I haven't answered. Let's see, what widget is the one at the top that shows current budget hours, allocated hours, actual hours, and hours write-off?
okay? So that one's not a widget. That's a graph. So we added that earlier on. So to kind of go back to this editing the dashboard again. So when you go to add widgets, there's a section of widgets. These are the current items that are on the current project dashboard, if you will. We just basically widgetized everything. And when you scroll down on the add a widget screen, you'll get data sets. Now, maybe we need to put like a little break in here to kind of point out that these are graphs. I believe that's already actually in the works, if I recall. There should be like a kind of a little notation, okay, graphs at this point. So that way we'll have these graphs. And when you add a graph, well, then that's when you can start, kind of plotting that out. And those graphs are then editable through the graph functionality. So this one happens to be a key metric graph, but you could do bar graph or line graph or pie graph as well, and add that right to your project dashboard. So I just add that graph there, just be, kind of fun and show that you can do more now than just having just the standard old widgets there. All right, yeah, so some questions you already answered about the November update. We typically do our monthly updates on, I believe, like the second Saturday of the month. So you can kind of plan around that if you need to. But yeah, we try to always keep Workamajig, fresh and polished. We do monthly updates. So if you're not aware of that, we do have monthly updates that go out. Um, and I would always say check out those release notes. You can also check out the release notes simply by going to your user profile there under more. You can see view release notes. And so this is something if you're really interested in what's happening with Workamajig, what new functionality or features or things are we fixing, you can always check out the release notes and see. We already have our November release notes are already here, so you can kind of take a sneak peek of what we have kind of coming up. Um, and sometimes our release notes are longer than others, but hey, yeah, right there, the new project dashboard. So there we already have some things in the works, things being fixed that I was kind of mentioning a little while ago. And there's even the schedule, talking about the new summary tasks and all that good stuff. Now, just keep in mind, you're always welcome to set up a meeting with your account manager and say, "Hey, I'd love to review the new release information. Can you show me some of this new functionality?" We're always happy to set up a meeting. Kind of tailor that for each client because every client has different needs, especially when it comes to like workflow and the schedule. I'm just showing you just one particular example of the schedule and the tasks of how it can be used. But again, you could also be very detail oriented, or you could do a mix and match and have some tasks that are just, phase level, but then other tasks you budget at a detail level. There is no constraints or restrictions that we imply. It just depends on how you want to set things up. So to clarify what the administrator option is referring to. So when I'm saying only true administrators can edit the project dashboard currently, well, I'm going to go into my employee list. So if you can't see your employee list, I can already tell you you're not an administrator. So I'm going to open up my employee list here. And so, for example, I'm going to open up my record, my username record. So under my security controls, there's this checkbox here called administrator. This is what will for sure grant you access to edit the project dashboard. If your employee record does not have that checked, you will not be able to edit the project dashboard currently. Like I said, we do hope to have a little bit more options and security around it, but this is the beta pass, the first pass of this being visible to users. So we just have it at tied to a very high level right of being an administrator in the system. So it doesn't matter what your security group is called, because I know we have a default group, sometimes called administrator IT, but that's just a security group label. That's just the name of the group. That doesn't infer you're an administrator of Workamajig. I'm a full administrator. I can do anything in the system. So that's a little bit of the difference if we're getting into the weeds of the rights there. So definitely some good questions. Oh, so I see this last question by Sarah. So yeah, so what we're trying to do, as kind of mentioned this a little while ago, we're trying to create a new graph um, type called I don't know what the label is going to be, but something like report or something like that. So that way you could have a graph that would more resemble a report view. So for example, if I open up the transaction view of a project, okay, I can see here's my transactions, my time entries I've added. So imagine this, but as a graph on the project. So the short answer is yes. We one day will hopefully have a graph that looks like this, where you can kind of chart it out in rows and columns. But at this time, the closest one you can kind of have is this metrics graph that allows you to just kind of see the high level numbers. You know, there are bar graphs. There are pie graphs. There's kind of a line graph that you can kind of do some interesting things with, but they're very limited because they're very much just X versus Y axis of data. So, but yes, we are aware and we're hoping to create a new graph type that will hopefully resemble kind of those report views, if you will. So that's definitely a future item there. But yeah, I mean, I would love a graph like this too, because in that way you get more detail, more specific than just, high level information. Like I said, I like to push the graphs. I like to, really kind of take this to the limit if possible. Um, but at the same time, you gotta make when you get the graphs. I've seen a lot of people go down these kind of these rabbit holes with graphs, and they try to put too much information in here, and it's like you might as well just be running a report at that point. So so a lot of times I try to like focus on, well, what is it that I'm really trying to see? Because when you're making a graph, it needs to be something you can identify easily and quickly, but that also means you need to be able to filter it down to that level of detail. So without totally going down, a custom report call here today, I would just say, just let us know what you're trying to do. Maybe I need to suggest another webinar just to go over custom reporting, kind of bring everybody back up to speed with what's possible. I'd be happy to do that at another time. So, and again, just to kind of reiterate, this is just kind of phase one, if you will, of some UI design developments that we're doing here. We've just decided to do the project dashboard first, with this new functionality of these dashboards and these widgets and the way to customize things. This is just the initial process. This logic, this kind of framework, if you will, is going to in the future be applied everywhere in the system. And what I mean by that is, again, it's going to replace your today pages. It's going to replace like your, today billing, today accounting. You'll be able to kind of customize your own today page. Not only for a company-wide kind of page, but individuals will be able to customize their individual home pages. So that is that. All right. We've spent the whole hour now, so I think we're probably good on kind of wrapping this up. Yep, I see Brittany just added our support email into the chat there. So like I said, any questions from this, any feedback from using it, we'd love to hear from you. Whatever we can do to kind of, make this better, get you the information you want to see, let us know. So just shoot an email to support@workamajig.com, and let us know how we can help you further. All right.
And there has been a webinar for custom reports. So if you go
Yes.
to the webinar recordings, there is one that was done already. That one is still valid. So I would use that one, Rachel. But if there's something specific, your account manager can definitely do a call with you on custom reports that are more custom to what you're looking for.
For sure. Yeah. So let me just point out that last resource. So you can go to our help site, support.workamajig.com. And so, for example, you could type in the word graph. Did I spell that right? Anyway, custom graphs guide. Here we go. And this guide will take you through the whole process. Create your own graph. What are the layouts, the graph types? Those are kind of what we were touching on earlier. Calculations and all of that. So this guide is pretty huge, and walks you through kind of that process. Now, again, this is talking specifically about the graph pages, but the overall process of once you get to adding a graph, this whole process is exactly the same as what you would be adding a graph in a project, if you will. Now, if you want to add a graph outside of a project, real quick, you can do that. So from that main menu, I got to click show all because I got a custom menu. So for example, if you go to like your, let me go to where do I have some good ones? I think I put them actually under the project manager. So I go project manager, I go to my PM graphs. So this is like the graphs page itself. So if you want to just kind of experiment with graphs in general, definitely check out any of the roles graph pages. And there are more security rights that allow people that are not administrators to add them and edit them here. So you can kind of feel free to try them out here if you want. Keep in mind though that when you add a graph here, that graph by default is going to pull all data in the system. So you kind of need to know a little bit about what you're doing here before you just hit the save button and pull all data. So be a little mindful of that, I will say. And that's one reason why I like the project dashboard so much, because um, the graphs are going to already be streamlined to just the project you open. Meaning that the graph is going to already be pre-filtered to the data of that particular project. And of course, now my dashboard doesn't want to load. Great. Everything was going so great till now. Anyway, but I will, there we go. So you can see this project has different hours than other projects. And this one even has 1 hour that's written off. So it's kind of neat that you have that quick visibility of those hours. Um, again, get some interesting data with, what's been assigned by week, over the past, year here, 2 years, it looks like. So lots of fun things that you can kind of do with the graphing. It all just kind of comes down to, what are you looking for, and what is possible. So, all right. Well, on behalf of myself and Brittany, we thank you for your time. And again, feel free to reach out to us with any questions, support@workamajig.com, and catch you next time. Thank you very much.